It's all pretend, as they say.
Hello, and welcome to House of Bards. We've been away for a bit.
Just a little bit, like not too long.
Yeah, it's been, there was Christmas, and then stuff, and then more stuff.
Many things. I mean,
yeah.
You'll have seen an episode after Christmas. That wasn't like us recording an episode, that was just me being lazy and mentally ill about editing. So, like, that one was actually recorded before Christmas.
Yeah.
As I believe.
But no, we're back.
Yeah.
With
Go on.
With maybe what doesn't sound like a fun topic, but it is actually quite a fun topic.
Yeah, this is a topic suggested by a listener called Gareth, and it is PC enmity, rivalry.
Yeah.
So,
all of the negative emotions you can attribute towards another person. So maybe outright hatred, distrust, just, not being cool with each other, and, rivalry.
Yeah. This is something that happens sometimes, between player characters. And I think it's probably important to mention at the beginning that we would draw a distinction between enmity between player characters and enmity between players themselves.
I think most people who, if you don't like another player, that's maybe a problem. Maybe you shouldn't play with those people.
It's definitely, an actual problem that needs to be solved, rather than a fake problem that potentially might need to be fixed.
Yeah, a fake problem. A fake problem can give you hours of entertainment, which that's the whole idea behind D&D. Any tabletop game is someone says, "Here's a fake problem. You need to figure out how to solve it," and you're all like, "Oh shit, yeah, let's do that." And two characters not liking each other is just another fake problem.
Now, obviously, if two players don't like each other, there's not really a great likelihood that their characters will like each other.
Yeah. Although, if you have a story about that, we would love to hear it. Two people just fucking hate each other, but on the table, they're characters are dating or whatever. I would love to hear that story, because that sounds amazing. If you have one like that, please share it, and we will do it on the Stories podcast.
That sounds like a really awkward, table to be at, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have a story for the Stories podcast about a player I didn't like very much, but our characters were essentially forced to cooperate very closely.
Yeah.
But that's for another time, I think.
But yeah. But again, if you don't, if you don't like another player, this is something that you're either going to need to overcome or just deal with it, It's like if you work at a place and you work with someone you don't like, either you deal with it, or you just go, well, we're just never going to get along, so let's just limit our interaction to professional as much as possible. And you can do that in Dungeons and Dragons. But we're not really here today about, we're not here to solve your real-life problems.
No.
Listeners.
We're going to talk about pairs of characters, or even, other more complex arrangements of characters who don't get on, for whatever reason.
Yeah, and normally it's just because their personalities don't clash very well, or you look at your friend over the table and go, wouldn't it be funny if these two characters just didn't like each other? And they go, yeah, that would be hilarious, let's do this. But normally it's just because two characters don't mix very well. You've just made two characters that just have different opposing moral views. Most neutral evil characters and lawful good characters, they're probably not going to get along very well. Their relationship is going to be fraught at best.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case. Paladins and thieves, for instance, are not often likely to be the best of friends.
No.
I think maybe, some kind of similar case for, say, necromancers and essentially everybody.
Yeah. But that's, just the way it goes sometimes. I think, and this is popping up in my head a little bit. Something that does annoy me and might actually grate on other players and the DM is when the sort of enmity goes beyond an acceptable level. Like, really, by now, your two characters should be over their initial dislike of each other and distrust of each other, because you've been in a situation where you've had to depend on each other and trust each other. It's basically you're not developing your character enough together and moving past that. It's, which, to relate it to something that, a game I like, Dragon Age 2, I always get really annoyed that, like, nobody ever, like, Anders and Fenris just hate Meryl for the whole game, and it's like, guys, get over it, she's really nice. Just get over your blood magic thing and just, like, try and get along with her. Like, you don't have to like her, but, like, she's, it's that kind of a situation. You don't want to be in a situation where it's like, come on, just... the thief saved the paladin's life 1,000 times now, or the paladin sort of learnt to trust the thief. So why, weirdly, in this situation aren't you getting along? You need to develop your, and, like, it's not like you can't disagree with each other or argue with each other as characters, but you have to...
But I think that there's a difference as well between two characters who don't like each other and two characters who disagree with each other, because I've had a pair of characters, one of them was mine, who didn't really have a problem with each other, but did have opposing ethical standards. So when it came time to, for one character to call the other out on his actions, that actually, like, devolved into a fight, like an internal fight within the party. When it was not, like, those characters did not, by and large, like, constantly take pot shots at each other or anything. It was just that they had very strong opposing opinions on how a particular situation should have been dealt with and what the consequences of the actions undertaken therefore were. And I think it's also, maybe worth pointing out that rivalry doesn't have to mean enmity. If you think about The Lord of the Rings, like, Gimli and Legolas are rivals.
Oh, yeah.
And they emphasise that quite a bit. At least Peter Jackson makes it seem like that way. It's the case in the book as well, but I think they get over it a lot quicker in the book.
Yeah. And as we all know, Gimli and Legolas are basically in love with each other.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's possible.
It's like they're still they still have this very friendly rivalry, but it's not an enmity of any sort. Like pretty early on.
Yeah,
it's
I think we all know. I think anybody who doesn't see the love between Legolas and Gimli is a fool. And I feel it's a bond even deeper than Sam and Frodo. I'll go on that line. I'll say that now.
But whatever your opinions on the relationship between Legolas and Gimli, you can't really deny the fact that, they're not... No. Like, the initial distrust between them doesn't really last for that long. They still do have this rivalry. So I think that kind of relationship is reasonably easy to play between... players in a game, because you can just have your characters compete with each other, but genuinely, like, care for each other.
Yeah, I think so. I think it wouldn't be unfair to say that I feel Azriel and Harrow are getting there.
The thing about Azriel and Harrow is that Azriel doesn't really like anybody.
No, yeah, this is the thing, isn't
Harrow, like, I think Harrow tries Azriel's patience a lot.
Yeah.
And now that they're in the Feywild and Azriel is, like, really frightened and being weirdly extroverted because he's frightened and he doesn't want to offend any of the Fey, he's irritated by Harrow's actions within the Feywild.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it might be getting there.
Yeah, I think so. I think, I think we our games are the Monday game? Yeah, Monday game. I completely forget what time we play a game. They're two very vastly different games in terms of group dynamics. Dawn Somber has a very, almost family dynamic at this point. And which makes sense because it's been going on a lot longer. But even before then, it was very much, one of friendship and mutual trust. Because Had to.
Whereas in Two Earth, like, we're still a group of people who don't trust each other that much, who've been thrown together by a shared, like, unifying goal that still really only means that they travel with each other. They're not...
Yeah.
And it's like, Asriel trusts them more than he would trust other people, but that's not really saying a lot.
No.
So, like, I think there's going to be character development for Asriel going through the Feywild, because obviously he's going to spend a stint of time being a lot more open and friendly to people.
Yeah.
Just because of how terrified he is of fucking up in the Feywild and coming to genuine harm.
And yet you're still gonna get fucked to death in the next session, so it doesn't even...
The plan currently is that is not going to happen. And that there was a plan set in place already before that was even set up. That would not happen. But yeah.
So yeah, I think it's definitely... I remember before Matt was playing Harrow, he was playing Darius. Now that was a very antagonistic relationship, because Darius sometimes just murdered people and did really bad, naughty things.
Which is difficult for other players to like. But I think the relationship between Asriel and Harrow is different, just because it's a very specifically... like, it's not even that much of a rivalry. It's more just Asriel being mean to Harrow. And Harrow eventually getting fed up with it and, like, reciprocating, and then it annoys Valanthe.
Yeah, it does.
I think that's the main thing, actually, the fact that it annoys Valanthe. It's not a real a PC problem if as soon as you have a third character jumping in to be like, hey guys, calm down, shut up. Like the two players just drop it. Just instantly. It's like, okay, that was our cue to cut this and we're going to do something else. We've had our little scene there.
I will occasionally sometimes prompt Beckett if I'm like, right, okay. And that's what a good DM, if two characters are arguing, it might initially be very entertaining and funny, and then you're a bit like...
The thing is, if it's not going anywhere, if these two characters are just going to argue and they're not going to, come to a head of all the stuff they've been building up to and actually, fight each other or something, then it's not really entertaining for the players who aren't involved in the enmity after about a minute.
Yeah, it's one of these things that's as a DM, sometimes you kind of have to manage time and the sort of just general mood of the group. This is fine to let an argument, particularly if you have two very funny players, which Alex and Matt are, kind of going back and forth, but it is one of these things that it's like, okay, we need to get on with Asriel getting fucked to death, so if you can just, carry on.
And you've got to think, is this going anywhere? Is there a point to this argument? Because if there isn't, then all the argument is it's illustrative of the relationship between these two characters, which isn't useless, but there's really only a certain extent to which you want that to go on before that gets chalked up as another clash between them, and then you want to see where that's going. If there is a point, maybe this is the bit where they finally got so fed up with each other that they're going to fight each other, maybe one of them has done something that the other one can't look past, maybe they fundamentally disagree on an action that the party should take as a whole, which means that they might call a vote or something amongst the rest of them, and factionize the party. You could make a lot of drama happen, but the players have to be prepared that that's what they're going to do. That's this is the point where this needs to happen. So it's and obviously if character enmity is rooted in player enmity, don't do that, because if they get to the point where they need to factionize the party, but you're also actually factionizing the table, that is the point where maybe you need to have your DM or somebody stop the game and think about who should be coming back to the table.
Yeah.
I have only ever asked somebody not to come back to my table once. And it was somebody I had a lot of trouble with as a player in general. I'm not actually certain why he turned up, to be honest.
Oh my god. Drama. Normally it's me who brings the drama on the podcast.
Only once, only once.
Oh no, yeah.
I've seen it done more often.
Yeah, I do. I always come back to the idea of, like, I feel like I've mentioned this before, but I did once play a game and two of the players were dating each other in RL, and then they broke up, and we could never ever do a session ever again because obviously
it's going to be weird at best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's. I think you did quite a big talk on that actually. You gave them fake names or something. Oh no.
That was
you made
that was a different separate one.
You
See
made
that was
up, air quotes.
Yeah. That was a fake scenario. The Craig thing was fake. I keep telling you this didn't actually happen.
Sure it didn't.
But there has been a time when yes, actually there have been, and I really, and in this situation I actually really liked the dude, and I didn't really know his girlfriend that well. This is exactly like this is the exact scenario of the Dungeon Master's girlfriend, isn't it? Except it wasn't the Dungeon Master. But no,
I mean,
ruined
I don't
everything for everyone.
Really, it's you have to separate these concepts of player enmity and PC enmity because they are largely independent. It's just they can intersect, and they have different approaches. Because like sometimes PC enmity doesn't really need to be resolved. Like maybe these two characters learn to get along, but never really like become friends or anything. They just learn to respect each other. Mm-hmm. And maybe the player, one of the characters, wants that character to leave, and since there's already this history of enmity with his other character, they decide like the way that he's going to leave is he's going to get angry at something that they've done, and then there's going to be a fight, and he's going to lose the fight, or just no, that's it, I'm done, I'm leaving, I can't stay in this party with this person. Yeah. But obviously, be sensitive with how you play that, because it's all pretend, as they say, but,
It's all pretend, but sometimes
people are really good at playing that, and it can get a bit weird, and maybe, like, a bit nasty.
Yeah, just remember that behind every this goes on for, like, anything where we all use masks to disguise our real selves. This goes for the internet, this goes for, D&D, this goes for cosplaying. Remember that there are real people behind whatever facade they're presenting, and sometimes those feelings can get hurt.
Yeah.
So be careful and try and keep it comfortable within your
It's really
friends.
Like a fundamental principle of interaction with other human beings, to be honest. It's not that like out there, I don't think.
Yeah. But, it's just one of these things. So, what can cause enmity between characters?
Well, really, characters are supposed to be fictional people. So what can cause enmity between characters is really just the same as what can cause enmity between people. Sometimes two people just don't get on. They're trying to fulfill the same social role and they're competing for it. Yeah,
that, it's, sometimes someone wants to be the top pilot in the Resistance and someone else wants to be the top pilot in the Resistance. And there can only be one ace pilot in the Resistance.
Yeah, like...
So maybe a bit of conflict there.
Maybe two people want to be the leader.
Yeah.
Maybe two people don't want to be the leader and both of them are trying to defer responsibility to the other, which means that they both blame each other for when things go wrong.
Yeah, that's... Yeah. That's a very, basic thing, and it's generally... that's all player created, but then sometimes, of course, you have things that the DM manufactures into the world that the characters can pick up on. So you have ideological differences. I think blood magic is a tool. No, blood magic is the devil's magic.
In Dawnsumber, the idea of Imperial Elves and Dragonborn not liking each other is pretty set in stone, and I have had a player play a character who, is a very traditional Imperial Elf, so, like, there weren't any Dragonborn in that party, but when they met Dragonborn, like, that character was not gracious to the Dragonborn they met at all. And, like, if they were both in a party together, there could be some friction there.
Yeah. Generally just, like, hating another character because of just fundamentally what they are. Like, again, Dragonborn, or just, like, the race of a character. And when I say race, I mean species, not That would
if you want to address that, then like sure, but make sure everybody is cool with it at the beginning.
Yeah,
and,
because
like, that needs to be a
I would
stated
be
goal,
like,
I think.
I would like if someone came on that table and were like, right, so my character's going to be a white supremacist. I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that.
No, I didn't sign up for that. That's not like a predicate of this game, so
yeah,
we're gonna ask you to not do that, please.
yeah. I would be like, no, that's not happening.
Yeah, so like it's different, and it's like there are other groups of people that might have other PCs might have an ideological problem with them. For instance, warlocks. Warlocks gain their magical powers, at least in 5th edition, from making sort of Faustian pacts with powerful exoplanar creatures. So demons, the Fae, the great old ones sometimes, like Cthulhu, and like that can be intimidating. Like for a while, that was kind of the definition of like all magic as it was understood to exist in like the medieval period, and that was why it was persecuted, even though it didn't actually exist. So it was all bollocks. So like there could definitely be characters who don't really appreciate having somebody who's bound to the service of a demon or whatever in their midst. Similar thing I think with unstable sorcerers, either the sorcerers who get their powers from like similar sources to warlocks, or the sorcerers who have like dragon blood and are very unstable, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Or or even just something as simple as, like, we've mentioned this before, a character disagrees with the fact that somebody makes their living from stealing or burglary.
Yeah. Maybe you have a paladin and a cleric who worship different and opposing deities.
Yeah.
That's very ideal there.
Yeah.
Again, actually, in Dawnsomber, Imperial Elves don't like clerics at all. They think that they are all blasphemers and heretics.
Mm-hmm. And these things are fun to play up. And then some characters can just be opposingly morally different, sometimes someone decides, I'm going to play an evil character, and everyone else who's maybe either a neutral or a good character is a bit like, okay. But that can be interesting, because that can be like this character going off doing kind of bad things, or achieving their goals in underhanded ways, and maybe our lawful good characters like, no, we can't cheat at this game of chance, or we can't, do this bad thing.
I think like a good example for those who read it is Belcar from The Order of the Stick, who is an evil halfling ranger, and all like the rest of the party all know that he's evil and frequently clash with him, and are kind of assholes to him actually, just because they know that he's constantly like creating friction with other characters, and he's very often wrong about things just because he's very, very slow to trust, which makes it all the more embarrassing on the times where he is actually correct about something and they don't pick up on that at all, as happened recently if you just got caught up again like me. And I think that's how you can. I wouldn't generally recommend mixing alignments that widely in a game. I kind of feel like if you're going to have evil PCs, then all of the PCs should be evil, and you should be doing an evil campaign.
But I mean, of course, I have seen it. I'm a big fan of the West Marches. Although I haven't watched it in a while, I do need to catch up. And there is this one particular character who does lots of very underhanded evil things, but like is kind of able to hide it through just like, this is what I am, or people just sort of don't question it. And you do get this sort of interesting sort of moral mix of characters, of these characters who are a bit like, either I don't really know where I fall on the moral scale, but this is making me uncomfortable, or hey, I'm along for the ride here. But I think that might sometimes be a case of one particular character leading the group and leading the story a little bit. Perhaps a little bit along with the DM as well. The DM's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm picking up on your vibe here, let's go along with this together, kind of thing. So that's always very interesting.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things that I wanted to be sure of is that I don't institute large penalties for changing alignment, because I feel like that's a thing that can naturalistically happen throughout a game. Especially if you're having like a redemption arc for a previously evil character, or a corruption arc for a previously good character, which can be very interesting to explore, especially to try and tie this back to the topic, because a character undergoing one of those two arcs within an environment of people from either end, I think, of the spectrum, is probably going to have, like, enmity with one or other characters within the party at some point, either at the beginning or at the end.
Yeah.
So, like, those can be interesting to do, I think. And I think Azrael as a character might change alignment if he, like, goes through an arc that's about him opening up and being more trustful of, like, people who aren't... I say people who aren't like him, but there's not really anybody like him. It's just, like, the people he's not used to.
Yeah. Just learning how to not be so closed off, learning how to open his heart and let the love in. He's true neutral, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which,
no, like, people can teach him how to open his heart. They'd be like, yeah, you know how you opened your legs all the time in the Feywild? It's like that, but less literal.
Like when
I say open his
Alex
legs,
says,
like, occasionally his mouth, because apparently that's what pixies are into.
Yeah. When Alex says that Azrael has become more extroverted in the Feywild, what he means is a slightly more along for the ride in terms of what he is and isn't willing to do.
Azrael seems to be picking up the idea that people in the Feywild apparently communicate primarily through, like, very, like, kinky sexual means of expression, and because he doesn't want to offend anyone for the risk of getting murdered, he's just sort of trying to be into whatever anyone he meets is into.
Yeah. It's... Yeah, I mean, that's not an inaccurate assessment of some Fey. So I won't spoil anything, let's put it that way, but it's, you know, if that's what Azrael's trying his best to do, that's fucking hell. So we've discussed PC enmity, but I think we can kind of discuss, you know, maybe just to pad this out a bit longer, but recurring NPCs and players not liking those recurring NPCs very much.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
Obviously, if, like, the player group as a whole doesn't like this NPC, and they should, that's a problem.
Yes.
But sometimes it's fine to just let that play out, have the PCs suffer consequences for not trusting or liking this NPC, and then that's that. You know, they made their choice, they should be allowed to have it.
Yeah. But I think sometimes you create a character who's genuinely, like, not likable at all. I don't think Jay likes the King of Varash very much and has very differing, opposing opinions to
Well, the thing is, the King of Varash is not very likable. It's like, like, depending on your perspective of how moral what he did was, he's either, like, genuinely evil, useless, or just a fucking coward.
I think with Jay, it's probably a mix of useless and just a fucking coward. So it's one of those things like, wow, you are really inept at the thing you do. So no, fuck you, man. You know, that's
because he does. He goes into this whole spiel about this is how my country got this fucked up, because I constantly had to cede more and more of the fundamental, like, rights of my citizens in order to just maintain the existence of the country. And Jay is like, I don't really feel like many of the things you're describing were necessary. I think you're just kind of useless.
Yeah. And I remember what, like, because, like, it was obvious that I was gonna go off on a tirade, and you just, like, in character interrupted Jay, and I was just thinking, you know, just like, none of you, you know, like, man, fucking King of Varash. Hate Varash.
It's awful.
But no, it's...
Yeah. But you could also have, like, who else did you not like?
In character? God, I don't know if I can...
I mean, the foils, I guess you were, like, distrustful of for a bit.
Oh, no, yeah, but then...
And Jay and Lyda kind of still sometimes don't get on.
Yeah.
They get on a lot better now, but there's still, like, bumps, like when Lyda wanted to fuck Jay's brother.
Yeah. Which, Like out of character, I found that really funny, but like in character, Jay was mortified and was like, "Lida, why?"
You are a tiny halfling, and he is a very large human man. That is a crime against nature.
I think Jay's also just like a slightly bigoted against halflings as well, which, you know, I think Jay's got some unresolved racial issues that need to be addressed.
Sure, you could go to the law firm.
Yeah, which it's a thing, but yeah. I know that there are plenty of characters Azrael doesn't like.
There's basically anybody who isn't a sailor, isn't a nomad, or is some combination of not being those things.
Yeah, like it's like obviously he doesn't like Eleanor.
No, he doesn't. I don't think he likes Eleanor because he's concerned about Eleanor's intentions.
Yeah.
And he really doesn't like Bartello, but that's probably kind of all right because Bartello is
yeah.
like the villain.
I kind of feel like that was my intention.
Yeah.
So.
And then there are other people where it's like it's not that he doesn't like them; it's just that he either doesn't respect them or doesn't trust them.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the people who Azrael doesn't dislike, he only doesn't dislike because he's like ridiculously condescending to them.
Yeah.
To the point where he basically doesn't consider them like significant enough to pose any real threat or cause for offense.
Yeah.
But then he gets to the Feywild where suddenly everything is way more powerful than him and apparently wants to have sex with him, possibly fatally. And he's like, okay, I don't want to piss any of these people off.
Yeah. I think it should be mentioned that it wasn't raised as a concern in the game that, like, I hope consent exists in the Feywild, and I was like...
I mean, the evidence thus far would suggest yes, but not universally.
Yeah. Well, that's unfortunately like the real world, Alex,
Yeah.
which sucks.
That is true. That is the case.
Yeah. But, no, it's just sort of this very strange Feywild that, like, I remember one of your friends asked if it had any specific inspiration, and I was sitting there thinking, God, does it? I hope it has a specific inspiration, because otherwise...
He actually named
just
an inspiration by name, but I wasn't familiar with the material he spoke of, so I don't actually, like, remember what the name was.
Yeah, I think, honestly, because I was sitting there thinking, I don't know if there's any specific inspiration. Oh my God, I think I'm just that weird, and I had to sit there for a minute being like, oh no.
There was a point where I figured out where you were going with that, and I was like, okay, if Beth is going to make this weird, I'm going to make it weird right back at her.
I didn't, like, it didn't even occur to me that it was, like, weird. It just sort of happened, and I was like, well, I've made this weird now, so I guess it's weird now.
Yeah, I think there's a great interplay between the characters just by having Azrael be really into it, and Valanthe be, like, respectful of it, but really not into it at all, and Harrow being, like, really unfamiliar with what is going on, past understanding the basic fundamentals of, you know, the Feywild, and also in the Feywild things apparently have a lot of sex.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, saying have a lot of sex seems a bit too hard a term for what goes on in the Feywild. I think fornicate.
Yes.
Like, you might see that said in, like, a classical book or something, that everything in the Feywild fornicates a lot.
Yeah.
And I believe there was actually a point where, like, Azrael stopped all of them and was like, listen to all of the birds screaming and, like, look at all of the like, insects going between the flowers and at the blooming trees and whatever. Everything here is fucking.
It's true. It's just like, I think it's mostly based on the combination that, like, it's at the minute in the Feywild anyway, it's perpetually summer. So everyone's already hot and bothered, so
Yeah.
You know, I almost feel like the Feywild itself is a character.
Oh, for sure.
In the game. Like, I know we've talked about environments before as, like a character within themselves, you know, like, we've discussed environments and characters and stuff like that, but yeah, you can totally, you know, sometimes an environment can become a character so much that it can cause enmity itself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. that's definitely true. If there's a particularly stressful environment, it might stress a relationship that's testy, but maybe not particularly confrontational between two characters.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, I know that Azrael and Harrow don't really get on in the Feywild because they seem to have very different ideas about what the appropriate way to behave there is.
Yeah.
Like, Harrow is very cautious and not, like, that frightened of the idea of, like, saying no, honestly, to people in the Feywild. And Azrael is like, well, in the material plane I would agree with you because that's, the standards of proper consent, but like here in the Feywild, I'm really fucking frightened by what you're doing.
So yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah.
It's and you could also have, if characters are trying to travel undercover, like for a while, characters in my other game were traveling through the Elven Empire, and one of them was a cleric, which is illegal in the Elven Empire. And she was hiding this, but one of the other characters was like not being very judicious about like keeping the secret, and that stressed the relationship between them a lot, especially when, as a result, partly of his actions, they got arrested.
Yeah. You have this sort of give me a second thinking. You also have, I think, as a DM, it's good to put characters in situations that might cause conflict and might cause a bit of enmity and result in some good joint storytelling, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Especially if like the two players are on board with like building their relationship that way.
Yeah.
That's definitely the case, I think. Because you can't really, I don't think, have all of your character development come from within the character themselves. I mean, maybe that has to happen if there's a very high character turnover in the game and like your teammates are not sticking around for very long, but really, you want to try and bounce off the other players in terms of how you can like build up your characters, and the best way to do that is by having different relationships with the other characters.
Yeah.
Like, so some of them are going to be very positive relationships, like we've talked before about romantic relationships between player characters, and some of them are going to be very negative relationships, like we're talking about now. So it's really about like trying to find. Because the other thing is, it gives you a good idea of what the other characters are like as well, because you have to like try and get a sense of who they are in order to get your character to appropriately react to them, which is also very good. Because it means that you're actually appreciating what the other players are doing with their characters. And I think as the DM, you've got to sort of like oversee all of that, and then you can introduce NPCs who might like or dislike the party as a whole, or specific characters in it based on the attributes that not just are inherent to the character, but are coming out in the way that the character is being played by the player. Right?
And I think especially if perhaps if two characters have an ideological difference, like one character is more sympathetic to a particular group, and the other player is perhaps the opposite, like the very far opposite of sympathetic towards that group. And maybe you put them in a situation where they have to interact with that group of characters, and
there was
say it's like, I don't know, lizard people, I don't know.
There was a point actually where the other group had to interact with this group of Dragonborn and like do a quest for them, and then you've got the elf who's like, I like getting paid and rewarded, but I'm really not comfortable with what we're doing right now. What we are doing is technically a crime, and I don't particularly want to do a crime to help this group of people. I don't believe that they deserve it. So like he was free to like make that decision, but everybody else was like, we're going to get paid, and we kind of like these people, and we think they got kind of a bum deal with where they are right now. So honestly, what's the issue? And like they could then argue with him, because they'd be like, hey, like I know we're going against the Elven Empire, but it's not the Elven Empire you like, and you spend a lot of the rest of your time like talking about that, about how you're like essentially what's the trope called? Chrono-displaced popsicle or something. Like you were frozen in the past. So the empire that you like is actually the previous iteration of the empire, and you don't like this one politically. So like, why do you have a problem with like transgressing against it when that is what you would be doing anyway, just because the transgression happens to benefit Dragonborn? Like, have some perspective, man. So then they could have like a disagreement over that, and I think that's the kind of thing. Just have interactions between player characters that way.
I think finally, sometimes relationships can be good between characters, but what happens when it goes bad? You know, that the kind of development of a relationship going from friendship to perhaps not friendship.
Well, it depends.
Which I think is interesting.
Like, was it intentional? And even if it wasn't intentional, like, how is that going to work out? Like, maybe those two characters will have like a very touching confrontation eventually, where you know they have to sort out their differences. Maybe they'll have a very dramatic confrontation where they utterly fail to sort out their differences, and one of them cuts the other's legs off and leaves him to die aside a river of lava. You know.
You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you. God, fuck.
But yeah, it's like, where are you going with this? I think that's what you always have to keep in mind. And I don't think it's particularly out of place to talk to the other player about, like, where are we going with this? And maybe they don't know. Maybe they're just sort of playing it by ear, and you're going to do, like, maybe they can patch up their relationship again in the future. Like, what is actually coming between them? Identify that and see, like, where you want to go with that dramatically. But no, like, play how you want to play. Yes, and like, talk to the other players about how you want that to go. Yeah. Like, even in just sort of a retrospective way at the end of a session. I do that quite frequently, and it's not weird at all.
Yeah.
Just have a good time, and, you know, you should be, I think, interested in, like, how dramatic your character is coming out to be. Like,
yeah.
And I think even if you're not that confident in playing, if you have a group of other players who are, then there's something to be said for, like, your character just being sort of like the rock around which all of their drama revolves. And you're just like, okay, I'm gonna just be stoic about all of this and deal with them when they come to me and just get on with the job otherwise. And it's like, you don't necessarily need to do more than that, but you can branch out once you have a better idea of what you're doing. So yeah, I think that's that, you know?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I'm seeing this episode is going to be slightly shorter. Like, we're shorter than we generally are, like, even before I've cut out all the silence and stuff, but...
yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing, though. I think
it was,
this topic...
Yeah, this topic, I think, is fairly easy to wrap up, especially since it's essentially the mirror opposite of a topic we've already done, and...
No, yeah.
It's like, you know...
love, just like... Hatred, just like love, is about communication.
Yeah, when you're
from a story standpoint. In real life, it's about a lack of communication.
Yeah, if you're like playing it in pretend because you're playing it in real, then maybe address that before you carry on, because that's probably more important. You know, just talk to the other players and talk to the DM and have fun with what you're all doing. You know, it's really the same stuff, just from a different angle. Anyway, that was House of Bards. You know, I have been Alex.
And I've been Beth.
You can find us at the links to our social media in the description. The description is also where you will find the credit for whatever art I use behind the image for this episode. And the music, as always, was by Kevin MacLeod. So thank you for listening, and we will see you next time we can make one of these. I feel like maybe
also,
that will be next
remember
week.
to send us your questions for the Q&A episode.
Yes.
We would like a lot of
We
material.
have received some questions. That's really good. But if you can think of any more, we're going to, like, write them all down. And as soon as we have enough, we will do the Q&A episode. Yeah. Also, something I'm going to start doing is I had to actually go through, like, the YouTube comments for this one. But when you make a suggestion, I will actually note down that you made it, and then we will give you a bit of a shout out if we do that episode. But that's not questions for the Q&A episode. That's like suggestions for topics, which we do also need, because the tank is very boring at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, not like it's more like it would take us a while to kind of think about stuff.
Yeah, and there are some episodes that we kind of want to do, but they require things we don't really have access to at the moment.
Yeah. I look forward to when Star Wars comes out on DVD, guys. It's gonna be a good one. But
that's good. We have something planned for that.
Yeah. It won't be about Star Wars, unfortunately. Sorry. But one day, maybe. But yeah.
Yeah, so that was us. We've been Alex and Beth. This has been House of Bards. So thank you for listening. Yeah.
Bye. Bye. kind of reminded of that one story that kind of gets posted around on like Reddit and the Chan boards and stuff like that. About this dwarf and this paladin that really hated orcs to the point where they were like really biased and like super racist against them. And then it's revealed that the paladin is actually half orc. And they go and like instantly going from best bros, the dwarf just goes no and just pushes him off and kills him. And I'm like, that's one, really funny, but I would be really angry if I were the player of that paladin. Like, not for like ever, but for a split second, I'd be like, come on. Is that what this relationship was all this time?
You were my brother, the one person I could be racist with. And now I find out you were one of them all along. You betrayed.
I too have lost a friend to social justice.
Oh God.